Let's begin with a truth that, once fully understood, will transform how the world responds to you instantly. People don't remember what you said. They don't even remember what you did, but they always remember how you made them feel. And there is no faster way to make someone like you than to make them feel seen, heard, valued. In every room you walk into, every conversation you have, there is an invisible hunger beneath the surface. The hunger to feel important without having to ask for it. It doesn't matter how wealthy, how educated, how powerful someone is. This need lives in all of us, and yet so few people ever get it fulfilled. The reason? Most people are too busy performing, too busy trying to impress others, prove their worth, or show how interesting they are, that they forget the most powerful social law in existence. If you want people to like you, stop trying to be interesting. Start being interested. When you make someone feel important in your presence, their nervous system calms, their ego softens, their guard drops, and they begin to associate you with something rare, peace. Now, I want you to really take this in. The ability to make people feel seen is a superpower. But like all superpowers, it's subtle, quiet. It's not loud or flashy. It's in the micro moments. A slight lean in while they speak. A genuine pause after they finish a thought. A question that shows you actually heard what they said. Those are the moments that make people think, I don't know what it is about you, but I just feel good around you. That's the effect we're after. That's charisma in its highest form. And here's the twist most people miss. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about tricks or tactics. It's about intention. It's about walking into every interaction thinking, how can I leave this person feeling more appreciated than when I found them? Let me tell you something. The people who have the most influence, the ones you can't help but feel drawn to, they've learned this. They've learned that likability isn't earned by talking more. It's earned by making others feel more. More seen, more heard, more understood. And the beautiful part? You don't need money, you don't need looks, you don't even need experience. You just need awareness. You need to stop thinking about how you're coming across and start paying attention to how they're feeling. Remember this. The most magnetic people are those who make others feel like they matter. This is your forgotten superpower. This is what makes people like you instantly. And in the next part, I'll show you the hidden principle behind why this works so well, the mirror effect, and how to use it to immediately elevate how people perceive you. Let's go deeper. Now that you understand the power of making others feel seen, it's time to learn why this works so fast. Why someone can meet you for 5 minutes and walk away saying, I really like that person. It all comes down to one psychological truth. People reflect what you project. We are social mirrors. Subconsciously, we scan the emotional tone of others and match it. It's instinctive. When you approach someone with warmth, they start to feel warm. When you approach them with judgment, they begin to tense up, even if they don't know why. When you project curiosity, confidence, and ease, you unlock that same energy in them. They're not responding to who you are, they're responding to who they are when they're around you. Think about that. That's the mirror effect. And it's happening in every interaction you have, whether you're aware of it or not. Now let's talk about how to use this. Because if you want people to like you instantly, you must become the initiator of emotional tone, not the reactor, the initiator. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone walks into a room with nervous, apologetic energy. They shrink their body. They speak quietly. They're unsure of themselves. What happens next? Everyone else in the room subconsciously mirrors that energy back. They become awkward around them. They don't quite know how to engage. It's not because they're unfriendly. It's because the emotional tone was set. Now flip that. Imagine someone walks into the same room with calm confidence, not arrogance, just groundedness. They smile with their eyes. They're fully present. They're not trying to dominate, but they're clearly at ease with themselves. What happens now? People relax. They mirror that calm. They're drawn in, not because of the words spoken, but because of the feeling projected. This is emotional leadership. And the moment you accept that you create the emotional temperature of your interactions, everything changes. Let's bring this back to likability. If you want people to feel safe around you, you must first feel safe within yourself. If you want them to open up, you must first be open. If you want them to smile, you must first carry joy, not in a fake way, in a deeply intentional way. Likability is a mirror. Show others who they want to be, and they'll remember you forever. Here's a powerful question to ask yourself every day. What do people feel when they walk away from me? It's not about impressing. It's not about proving. It's about giving. Because the person who can give confidence, calm, interest, and encouragement in a world starving for those things becomes unforgettable. Let's make this practical. Here's how you embody the mirror effect in everyday life. Walk into the room with intention. Before entering a meeting, conversation, or event, pause, set the emotional tone, say to yourself, I project warmth, I project presence, I project certainty. Mirror their highest self. See people not as they are, but as they could be. Speak to that. Reflect it. You'll be amazed how they rise to meet the version of themselves you believe in. Release the need to impress. The need to impress kills charisma. It creates tension. People feel when you're trying too hard. True confidence is relaxed. It says, I'm good with me, and I see the good in you. Speak from the center. Don't rush. Don't apologize for your existence. When you speak slowly, clearly, and with grounded energy, you give others permission to do the same. Because here's the ultimate truth. The fastest way to be liked is to be someone others feel better around, not because you told a perfect joke, not because you had all the right answers, but because when they were with you, they felt like more of themselves. That's what makes you unforgettable. In the next part, we're going to unlock one of the most powerful principles. Become genuinely interested in other people. But we'll go beyond the surface and show you how to become interesting by becoming interested, naturally without faking it. This is where your charisma becomes effortless. My dear reader, let me give you a truth that has never failed me. Not in business, not in friendship, and certainly not in winning people. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. That's not a theory. That's a law of human nature. People are not interested in you. They're interested in themselves, morning, noon, and after dinner. And if you want to make people like you instantly, if you want to become magnetic, admired, unforgettable, then you must master this rare art. The art of sincere, unselfish interest. Now, I don't mean the fake kind, the kind that nods while checking a watch, the kind that only listens for a pause so it can jump in and say, well, let me tell you about me. I mean the kind of interest that makes someone feel like, for that moment, they are the most important person in the world. Because here's the truth, friend. Let me give you a story. Many years ago, I attended a dinner where I spoke with a botanist, someone who studied plants. Now I knew nothing about plants. Couldn't tell you the difference between a daisy and a dandelion. But I listened. I asked him questions. I leaned in. I was sincerely curious. And do you know what he said to our host at the end of the evening? That Dale Carnegie is the most interesting conversationalist I've ever met. I had barely said a word. I simply gave him the gift everyone wants, but few ever received attention without interruption, interest without agenda. That's all it takes. If you want to be interesting, be interested. Let me show you how this works in practice. You see someone, friend, client, stranger, and instead of waiting for your turn to talk, you do this. Ask questions that matter, not, how's the weather? Ask, what do you love most about what you do? Or what's lighting you up lately? Ask about them, their interests, their goals, their struggles, and listen like their answers are golden. Because they are. Remember what they tell you. This alone will make you unforgettable. Most people don't remember a name 5 minutes after hearing it. But if you remember someone's child's name, their dog's name, the project they were stressed about last week, you've done something rare. You've told them you matter. Mirror their enthusiasm. If someone's eyes light up when they talk about photography, match that light. Say, tell me more about that. What got you into it? Their joy will double, and they'll forever link that joy to you. But there's more. There's a deeper truth that most never see. Genuine interest is not a technique. It's a mindset. You must train yourself to find others fascinating. You must believe that everyone, yes, everyone, has a story worth discovering. And when you start to approach people that way, something miraculous happens. They begin to like you instantly, not because of what you said, not because of what you wore, but because you gave them what no one else did, the feeling of being seen, heard, and valued. And here's the secret. When people feel liked by you, they like you in return. So my advice to you is simple. And if you want the admiration of others, stop chasing it. Instead, admire them first. If you want to be remembered, stop trying to impress. Instead, be impressed with their ideas, their efforts, their journey. You'll find that people begin to lean in. They'll share more, open up more, trust more. Why? Because they'll sense something rare in you. They'll feel safe with you, seen by you, respected by you. And that feeling, my friend, is priceless. Now, in the next part, we will unlock a powerful truth, the secret to making a great first impression. I'll show you how your smile, your body language, and your first words can captivate people within seconds. You won't want to miss it. Because charisma isn't just what you say. It's how you show up. And I'll show you exactly how to master that. Now listen carefully, dear reader. I'm about to give you a secret that will change the way people respond to you for the rest of your life. It costs you nothing. It requires no education, no special background. It can open doors, melt resistance, and leave an impression more powerful than words. It's your smile. Yes, your smile. Don't underestimate it. Don't dismiss it as something simple or small, because I assure you it's anything but. A warm, sincere smile is one of the most potent tools you have to win people instantly. Now let me tell you why. You see, a smile says things that words never could. It speaks to the heart before the mind. It says, I'm glad to see you. It says, you're safe here. It says, I like you. That's powerful, because people don't always remember what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. And your smile, your real honest from the heart smile, makes people feel welcome, seen, and valued. I remember once meeting a business executive who always carried an expression like he'd just bit into a lemon. He was competent, yes, but cold, unapproachable. Then there was a junior clerk in the same firm, no fancy title, no high pay, but he wore a genuine smile every day. Do you know who people preferred to deal with? The man who smiled. Why? Because a smile makes you human. A smile makes you approachable. A smile invites connection. Let me share a line I've told thousands over the years. Your smile is a messenger of your goodwill. When you walk into a room and smile, people feel it, and they can tell instantly whether it's forced or sincere. That's the difference. We're not talking about a fake grin, the kind that fades as quickly as it came. We're talking about the kind of smile that reaches the eyes, the kind that bubbles up from a place of goodwill. And here's the beautiful part. When you smile at someone, they usually smile back. It's automatic. It's contagious. Even on the street, even with strangers, even in moments of silence, a smile breaks down walls. I've seen it in train stations, boardrooms, classrooms, and back porches. You might be thinking, but Dale, I don't feel like smiling. Life's stressful. I've got burdens. And I understand. But let me tell you what I've learned after decades of working with people from every walk of life. Sometimes we don't smile because we feel happy. We feel happy because we choose to smile. Try it right now. Smile, yes, now, and hold it just a little longer. Notice how your mood shifts. Notice how your body softens. That's the power you carry at all times. There's science behind it, too. A smile triggers positive chemical responses in your brain. Dopamine, serotonin, and all those wonderful things that boost your confidence and calm your nerves. So you're not just making them feel good, you're reinforcing your own presence and power. And here's another benefit. A smile disarms suspicion. In negotiations and networking, even in tense moments, a smile communicates that your intentions are peaceful. You can lower defenses and build trust. before a single sentence escapes your lips. Let me tell you this story. During one of my seminars, a woman stood up and said she hadn't smiled at her husband in years. Too many arguments, too much distance. I told her to try one thing. When he walks in the room, smile. That's it. Nothing more. Just smile. She came back the next week glowing. "Mr. Carnegie," she said, "that one smile changed everything. He looked at me like he hadn't in years." It wasn't magic. It was humanity. It was warmth. It was grace. A smile is not weakness. It is strength in its gentlest form. So I say to you, want people to like you instantly? Smile. Not just at friends, not just at people you want something from. Smile at the cashier, the janitor, the stranger passing by. Smile at your family when they least expect it. Smile at life, even when it's hard, especially then, because every smile you give plants a seed of connection. And over time, those seeds bloom into relationships, respect, trust, and opportunities. A smile can be the beginning of a friendship, a partnership, or a love story. A smile can open hearts that were shut tight. A smile can remind someone that goodness still exists in the world. And my friend, that is something the world can never have too much of. So the next time you meet someone, before you speak, before you shake their hand, remember this. Smile like you mean it, like they matter, because they do. And because when you smile sincerely, you become unforgettable. Let me share with you a truth I've repeated more times than I can count. A person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Yes, their name. Not praise, not compliments, not even flattery, but their own name spoken with warmth, sincerity, and care. You might think this is a small thing, but it isn't. It's a key, a golden key that unlocks connection faster than nearly anything else I've ever taught. Think about this. What's the very first word you learned to respond to as a child? Your name. It was the word that meant someone was calling for you. Someone was paying attention to you. Someone saw you. And all through life, that association remains strong. Say a person's name and you speak to their identity. You make them feel significant. You say without saying it, I see you, I remember you, you matter. You know what makes people feel insignificant? Being called hey or buddy or man when they've already told you their name? It may seem like a harmless oversight, but it signals that they're forgettable, that you weren't present, that they didn't leave a mark. And what's tragic about that is this. People crave to be remembered. People long to feel seen. People want to believe that they matter in this world. And here's where you come in. You can give them that feeling instantly with something as simple as remembering and using their name. I remember a young man who came up to me after one of my lectures in Chicago. He said, "Mr. Carnegie, I try to be polite, I smile, I ask people questions, but something's missing. They don't seem to respond." I asked him one thing. "Do you remember their names?" He paused, then said, "No." "Not really. I guess I'm always nervous and forget." I told him this. Remembering a name is not a gift. It's a habit. Anyone can do it with intention. And when you do, when you greet someone by name, when you thank them by name, when you introduce them by name, you become magnetic because you're doing something that most people fail to do. And in a world full of distraction, people notice when you remember them. Now, some say, "Dale, I'm just not good with names." To that I say, become good, because this skill, this habit, can transform your relationships, your influence, your business, and your life. Here's how to start. Repeat the name immediately. When someone introduces themselves, say it back right away. "Nice to meet you, Sarah." That first repetition helps lock it in. Associate the name with something visual. Tom, who loves tennis. Lisa with the lavender dress. Make a little mental picture. Your brain loves images. Use their name naturally in conversation, not excessively, but enough to make it stick. "That's a great point, Tom." "Lisa, I totally agree." Write it down afterward. Jot it in a notebook or your phone. The act of writing reinforces memory. Practice in silence. Say their name to yourself a few times after the interaction. Reinforce it while it's fresh. You'd be amazed what a little attention and repetition can do. Now let's take it one step deeper. Don't just say their name, say it with feeling, say it with interest, with warmth, with sincerity. Don't just speak it, honor it. Because when you speak someone's name with respect, they don't just hear it, they feel it. That's how you build connection, and that's how you make them like you, instantly. Let me tell you about Charles Schwab, the great steel magnate. He wasn't the richest man of his time, nor the most educated, but he was beloved. Why? Because he remembered people's names, even down to the factory workers. He'd walk through the plants and greet them by name, shake their hands, ask about their families. And those men, they would have followed Schwab into battle. Because he didn't just see their labor, he saw them. He made them feel important. And that, my friend, is what this entire principle is about, making people feel important. So if you want to be liked, respected, welcomed, remembered, say their name, say it often, say it with care. Because long after your words are forgotten, long after your gestures fade, they'll remember how you made them feel. And it all starts with a name. Now let me start with something that may surprise you. You can't win an argument. Even when you win, you lose. Now I know what you're thinking, but Dale, what if I'm right? What if I have facts? What if the other person is clearly wrong? My answer? Still, don't argue. Let me explain. Years ago, I learned a truth that changed the way I dealt with people forever. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. You might overpower someone with logic. You might prove your point with charts and statistics. You might get them to admit, fine, you're right. But in doing so, you've made them feel inferior. You've bruised their pride, and you've left a scar on the relationship that facts cannot heal. And that damage, that feeling, that's what they remember. Do you know how many marriages, partnerships, and friendships have slowly eroded? Not because of major betrayals, but because of small, persistent arguments? Two people who each needed to be right? Two egos battling for control? Two hearts growing apart in the name of logic? You can win an argument or you can win a person, rarely both. Let me tell you a story. A man once came up to me after a lecture. He said, "Mr. Carnegie, I just don't understand my wife. She's so unreasonable. Every time we argue, I prove my point. I have facts. I stay calm. I lay it all out. But she just gets colder." I said to him gently, "Sir, you've made your point, but you've lost her heart. Facts don't change people. Feelings do. So what's the alternative? Understanding, curiosity, grace. Here's what I teach instead of argument. 1, avoid the word, you're wrong. It shuts down communication. It puts the other person on the defensive. And once a person is defending themselves, they stop listening. Instead, try, I see it differently. That's interesting. Here's how I understand it. May I offer another perspective? These phrases keep the conversation open. They invite discussion instead of conflict. 2, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and clearly. Nothing disarms hostility faster than a sincere admission of your own mistake. Let me share from experience. When I've been wrong and I owned it with enthusiasm, it often made the other person defend me. They'd say, no, Dale, don't be too hard on yourself. That's the power of humility. People respect those who can admit fault. It builds trust. It shows strength, not weakness. 3, begin in a friendly way, always. Even when you disagree, do it with kindness. Start with common ground. Look for points of agreement. Then gently introduce your differing view. I completely agree with you that X is important. I've just found that sometimes in situations like this, Y can also make a difference. You're not attacking. You're inviting them to explore with you. 4, let the other person do a great deal of the talking. You'll learn more by listening than speaking. And when people feel heard, truly heard, their defensiveness fades. So ask them to elaborate. Ask them how they came to that belief. Be genuinely curious. You'll often find that their opposing view is built on experiences you hadn't considered. 5, let the other person feel the idea is theirs. If you want someone to adopt a new belief or behavior, don't tell them to. Lead them there, ask questions, suggest, let them reach the conclusion themselves, because people rarely resist their own ideas. Here's something I've said in nearly every course I've taught. If you want honey, don't kick over the beehive. Arguments stir up ego, emotion, and injury. They harden minds. They close hearts. But respect, humility, genuine interest. They soften. They open. They build bridges. So the next time you feel the urge to argue, stop. Breathe. Ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to be effective? Because winning influence, winning cooperation, winning trust comes not through conquering another person's ideas, but by understanding them. So remember, the best way to win an argument is to avoid it. And in doing so, you don't just win the moment, you win the relationship. Let me share with you a secret I learned not from textbooks, but from years of human interaction. There's no better way to win a person's heart than to begin with your own faults. Not just because it's polite, not just because it's humble, but because it's effective. Too many people try to influence others by starting with correction. You shouldn't have done that. You're wrong. Why didn't you? But let me ask you, how do you feel when someone points out your mistakes without admitting their own? Exactly. Your guard goes up. You feel small, defensive, maybe even angry. Now imagine instead that same person begins with, you know, I've made this mistake myself more times than I can count. Suddenly the mood softens. The tension melts away. You feel understood, not judged. And once a person feels understood, they're open, they're teachable, they're ready to listen. This principle changed my life, and it will change yours too. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I had a young man in one of my classes who was chronically late. Week after week, he'd stroll in 10, 15 minutes after we began. Now, I could have barked at him in front of everyone. I could have said, "You're disrespectful. You're wasting our time." But instead, one day I said with a smile, "You know, I used to struggle with punctuality myself. There was a time I was late to everything. And you know what helped me? Realizing how much it made others feel like their time didn't matter. I didn't blame. I didn't scold. I simply shared. He was never late again. Why? Because I didn't put him on trial. I invited him into my experience. And in doing so, I helped him change without resentment. You see, when you talk about your own mistakes first, you do three powerful things. One, you equalize the relationship. No one wants to feel beneath you. When you criticize from a pedestal, you create separation. But when you admit your own faults, you come alongside them. It's no longer you versus them. It's, we've both been there. Let's figure it out together. That is how influence is built. Two, you disarm defensiveness. Criticism, no matter how constructive, activates people's defenses. But vulnerability, that's disarming. When you begin by saying, I've done the same thing. I made that exact mistake last year. Let me tell you where I went wrong. You take the sting out of correction. It no longer feels like an attack, and it becomes a conversation. Three, you create a path for grace and growth. People learn best when they feel safe. And when you reveal your own imperfections, you create an atmosphere of psychological safety. You show that mistakes aren't shameful. They're human. And growth isn't something to fear. It's something to pursue. One of my favorite examples comes from Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln, a man of immense power and responsibility, often admitted his own blunders, even in public letters. In one instance, he appointed a man to a position who turned out to be a complete failure. Rather than hide it or place the blame, Lincoln wrote, "The fault is mine, and I take full responsibility." Can you imagine the respect he earned? Not in spite of that confession, but because of it. People don't expect you to be perfect. They just want to know you're honest, that you're human, that you walk the same ground they do. So the next time you need to correct someone, a friend, an employee, a partner, even a child, start with this. I made a mistake like this once. Share your story, share your struggle, show them you understand. That's where transformation begins, not from judgment, but from connection. Let me leave you with this principle. A drop of humility can move mountains of resistance. It's not weakness, it's not softness. It is strength of the rarest kind, because it takes courage to admit fault. It takes wisdom to lower your guard first, and it takes character to lead with vulnerability in a world obsessed with image. But those who do win not just arguments, not just influence, but loyalty, respect, and lasting impact. So go ahead and talk about your own mistakes first, and watch how hearts open, resistance falls, and real change begins. If I could teach only one principle from my entire lifetime of study, it might be this. Every person you meet, every soul you encounter is hungry, starving, in fact, for appreciation. Not flattery, not shallow praise, but real, honest, and sincere appreciation. William James, the father of modern psychology, once said, "The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated." And I believe he was right. You see, people will do more for appreciation than they ever will for money, recognition, or even authority. We are all, at our core, emotional beings, and when someone sees us, truly sees us, and values our effort, it changes something in us. It strengthens our resolve. It lifts our spirits. It makes us want to give our best. And yet, how rare it is. How seldom people take the time to genuinely notice the good in others. Most are so preoccupied with what's missing, what's wrong, what needs fixing, they forget to celebrate what's working. Let me ask you, when was the last time you looked someone in the eye and said, "I appreciate what you did today. I noticed it, and it mattered." Not to gain something, and not to manipulate, but simply to honor the truth. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, a young man in one of my classes shared how his life was transformed by a single sentence from his employer. He was a quiet fellow, diligent, responsible, but largely unnoticed. One afternoon, after staying late to finish a report, his manager passed by and said, "You know, I've seen how hard you've been working lately. You never say much, but this place runs smoother because of you. Thank you." He told me that moment brought him to tears. He had worked there for years. No one had ever said that before. That one sentence did more to inspire him than any raise ever had. You see, appreciation breathes life into a person. It makes them feel significant. It affirms that their efforts are not in vain. And the beauty is, it costs nothing. A kind word, a sincere compliment, a moment of undivided attention. These are small gestures with enormous power. But again, let me make this distinction clear. Appreciation is not flattery. Flattery is insincere. It has an agenda. It's a sugar-coated manipulation. People can sense it. They may smile and nod, but inside they recoil. Appreciation, on the other hand, is truthful, earned, specific. Instead of saying, "You're amazing," say, "The way you handled that difficult client today, calm, respectful, focused, it was impressive." Instead of saying, "Great job," say, "The clarity of that report showed you really put thought into every detail." Appreciation is meaningful because it is anchored in truth. It says, "I see you. I respect your effort. You matter." And that, my friend, is the most powerful force of influence you can carry. I once had a senior executive tell me, "You know, Dale, I've worked at this company for 20 years. I've received bonuses, stock options, and even promotions. But nothing has ever meant as much as a handwritten note I got from my manager that simply said, 'Thank you for always doing the right thing, even when no one is watching.'" That piece of paper stayed in his wallet for a decade. Why? Because it spoke to his soul. It wasn't extravagant, it wasn't loud, but it was genuine. And I ask you today, whose soul can you speak to? Who in your life, a colleague, a friend, a spouse, a stranger, is silently yearning to be seen? Who needs to hear, "You make a difference"? I admire how you handled that. Your effort doesn't go unnoticed. Say it, write it, mean it. You may never know the full impact of your words, but I promise you, they will leave a mark far deeper than you imagine. So let us make a habit of catching people doing things right. Let us become skilled observers of the good. Let us make appreciation not a performance, but a practice, and in doing so, you will build bridges of trust, connection, and influence that cannot be bought. People may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Make them feel valued, make them feel important, and make them feel appreciated, because they are. My friend, we've traveled together through timeless truths, truths that, if lived sincerely, will transform not only your relationships, but your entire life. Let us pause and remember what we've learned. You can make people like you instantly, not by pretending, not by pleasing, but by being genuinely interested in them. Smile, remember their names, listen fully and speak with warmth. Acknowledge your own faults before pointing to theirs. Avoid arguments and ego. Show appreciation. And above all, make the other person feel important, sincerely. Each of these principles is simple, but do not mistake simplicity for weakness. The smallest gesture, done with genuine care, carries more weight than 1,000 clever tactics. And so I leave you with this. Practice presence, not perfection. You don't have to be flawless. You don't have to get every word right. But you do have to show up fully, kindly, openly. Likability is not about trickery or charm. It's not a performance. It's not a technique. It's intent. It's your desire to uplift others, to honor their dignity, to listen when no one else does, to offer warmth in a cold world. That, my friend, is rare. That is priceless. That is influence. So whenever you enter a room, begin a conversation, or cross paths with a stranger, let this be your mantra. I make others feel valued. That is my power. And as you live that truth, as you lead with that heart dash, you will discover that what you give always returns. Your influence will grow. Your relationships will deepen. And you'll have more than success. You'll have significance. And that is the true measure of a meaningful life. Now go, live it, lead it, be it. Let the world feel the warmth of who you are.